Now we are going to look at economic systems. Having seen the economic agents, it brings us to the study of economic systems. We saw that the economic agents are those agents which are concerned with the decision making, and they are making decisions where within the economy. So we need to know the various types of economic systems which they use or in which they operate as they make decisions regarding the ownership, allocation, production, and all those questions which have to be answered in an economy of what to produce, when to produce, for whom to produce, and that kind of thing. So an economic system is simply a system of ownership and administration and allocation of resources of a country. System of ownership, administration, and allocation of resources of a country, and there has to be a purpose, there has to be an objective, there has to be a name for the purpose of achieving major goals of development. So you need to have a system which tells or clearly indicates who owns the resources, who has full control over the resources of an economy. Then, how are they going to be distributed for the production of the various goods and services to satisfy the unlimited wants of humans or mankind in that particular economy. So, an economic system is the system of ownership and administration or allocation of the resources of a country in order to achieve the major development goals. And we shall see that in the world of the major economic systems are three. They fall into three categories as we are going to elucidate on them and try to expand on them, look at their features, look at their advantages, look at their participation in the distribution, administration, and allocation of these resources. So they are basically three, and these are the free enterprise economy, the command economy, and the mixed economy. Economic system. System of ownership, allocation, and administration. Or resources in order to achieve major development goals. To achieve major development goals. Any economy has its objective, has its goals, and we find that these goals cannot be achieved randomly, but there has to be some systematic planning or guidance. And the economic systems are the ones which tell us who is guiding the allocation of resources, who is in charge of the administration of resources, who is in charge of answering the questions of what to produce. Is it in the hands of the people? Is it in the hands of the government or the state? Or are they jointly sharing this role of allocation, ownership, and administration of resources? So we have already pointed out that basically, there are three. There are three economic systems. Economic systems in the world today. We can say we have the free enterprise also known as capitalist, also known as unplanned, also known as uncontrolled economy. Also known as, you can also add another one, market economy or economic system. So basically there are three. Number one is the free enterprise. Other people call it a capitalist, others call it unplanned, others call it uncontrolled, others call it a market economic system. So whichever name you want, you are referring to the same economic system, free enterprise, and we shall see its characteristics. How does it operate? What are its features? What advantages do we have out of having a free enterprise, unplanned, or market economy? Why do we call it a market economy? Does it mean that other economies don't have markets? Does it mean that in other economic system there is no planning, or there is more planning, or there is more control than here? So all this is what we are going to find out. So free enterprise, and our second one is the planned. We can call it planned. All socialist, all controlled, all command economy, or economic system. So this is the opposite of the first one, where you find that in the first economic system there is no planning, or it is unplanned. Then if there is no planning, how are resources going to be allocated in order to produce the various goods and services, and maybe try to achieve the major goals of development without planning? Then we shall find out how they operate. But here there is planning, and resources are controlled, and we have a commanding agent or sector which is in control of each and everything, and for that matter, how are goods and services going to be allocated in this economy. Then the third one is the mixed economic system. Mixed economic system. And as the word stands, it is a blend, it is a mixture of these two, where you pick out elements of the free enterprise economy working alongside elements of a planned economy. So some areas are planned for, others are not planned. So we have the socialist and capitalist kind of features appearing together in our mixed economy. So we are mixing, the mixture arises out of the previous two economic systems. It is not that a mixed economy is independent on its own, no way. It is just borrowing what is good in the free enterprise economy and what is good in the socialist economy, and then it brings them together to operate. And we find that most economies of the world today are mixed. We don't have totally capitalist or totally socialist, but now they are trying to utilize the advantages of the free enterprise and the advantages of the socialist, and they try to mix them and operate in that kind of trend. So let's try to examine in detail the free enterprise economy and see how it works. So, free enterprise economy We have seen that it has many names, but for study purposes, let's refer to free market or capitalist. Capitalist economy. You can be able to identify it by looking at its features. So this is where resources, means of production, decision making are in the hands of the private sector, are in the hands of individuals or private sector with no or with minimum government interference. Minimum or no government interference. This is where productive resources are individually owned, and the allocation of resources is done by the interplay of the market forces of demand and supply. So resources are allocated by the free, that's why we call it a free enterprise economy, because we have the free interplay of the market forces, of demand and supply. So the question of what to produce is going to be it. So we are saying that this is where resources, means of production, decision making are in the hands of individuals or the private sector with no or with minimum government interference, and resources are allocated by the free interplay of the market forces of demand and supply. So as we have already seen in our introduction, we may have heard of the saying that demand creates its own supply. So this is where there is that kind of freedom. Whenever you see that demand is available, producers go ahead to produce the goods and services and supply them, because already demand is the indicator that demand is there is already available in the market. So in a free enterprise economy, it is not the government to decide what to produce, but individuals have the authority, they have the power, they own the resources, as we're going to see in the features, and they are able to allocate or to use these resources in those areas where they feel that consumers will be able to buy their goods and services at a fair price. That's why they are telling us that there is minimum or even no government interference. Government does not tell people what to produce. They are not planning for them. These people make decisions of their own, they make their own plans, and they make their own choices of what to produce, when to produce, for whom to produce, and where to produce from. So that is why we call it a free enterprise economy, because they have a high level of freedom with them to make their own decisions in their economy in order to bring about meaningful growth and development. So we find that they have their peculiar characteristics, and one of them is that there is private ownership of resources. Private ownership of resources or wealth, and who are free to make economic choices. You have your own resources, so you are free to use those resources as you want without government interfering in your decisions. Government does not tell you that now you are going to produce this commodity, so whatever land you have, you only be producing sugar cane. No, you are free to put there a school, you are free to put there an amusement park, because the resources are yours, the decision making is yours, and you are driven, as you're going to see, with the profitability. You set up that activity that is going to give you maximum profits. Then there is existence of competition among the producers and consumers in both the factor market. Because there is freedom, everybody who wants to produce is free to join any line of production. And since you are many, definitely that brings about that element of competition. Everybody wants to earn a profit, everybody has ownership of resources, everybody is free to make a decision of what to produce, when to produce, where to produce, for whom to produce for, and you find that in the long run, there will be so many people engaged in the production process in the economy, and that becomes more competitive. As we shall see, it may be of an advantage, or maybe it may also be disadvantageous. Then there is limited or no government interference in resource allocation and decision making. In reality, there is no way we can do without the government, but in as much as possible, government interference is very limited, and it comes in key and vital areas which are indispensable or which cannot be left to the private individuals. So we find that if you completely leave everything for the private sector to direct and control, some people will do without goods and services. So that's why we say there is limited government interference, because we need an element of government participation to cater for those people who don't own resources at all, but they also need to survive. Another characteristic or feature is that production is mainly driven by the profit drive. People are producing for the purpose of making profits, and usually high prices indicate high profit for them, and that's why in even some instances we say that they are guided by the price system. Where prices are high, that's where the owners of the resources are going to allocate them so that they are able to use or utilize the high prices and make a lot of profit. So mainly production is for generation of profits. There is freedom of choice. Neither the consumers nor producers are forced to make choices. So that's why it is a free enterprise economy, whereby choices are made by individuals freely without government forcing them to do this or don't do that. No, you have all the liberty, you have all the freedom to make a meaningful decision. As we saw, that choice is making all the right decisions. So people, individuals on their own, make their own right decisions on what to produce based on the resources that they own. So in summary, we have there is private ownership of resources, there is existence of competition, there is limited or no government interference, production is mainly for profit generation, and there is freedom of choice. People are free to choose. You as a consumer, you choose what to consume, and as a producer, you choose what to produce. Not government imposing or commanding you to do what it wants. So characteristics. Of a free enterprise economy. Enterprise economy. Seen that there is private or individuals ownership of wealth. Since we have already defined wealth, now we know what it is, and resources. We have seen that there is limited or sometimes no government interference. We've seen that production is for profit making. Profit making. We have seen that there is existence of competition. Existence of competition. Why? Because of the many funds, many producers, and consumers. The consumers are many and producers are many, so all of them are competing in their own respective ways. Then we also find that there is freedom of choice. Freedom of choice. Freedom of choice. That is, again, producers and again consumers are free to choose what they want to do. What they want to do. So that is where the freedom of choice is coming from. Then there is also self-interest. That is individualism. There is self-interest. Why is there self-interest? Because of the profit drive. People are accumulating profits and wealth, not for the whole society, but for themselves. And we find that, as again we are going to see, the economic undertakings, which are usually embarked on by the individuals, they are to benefit those private individuals themselves. Then we find that there is existence of consumer sovereignty. Existence of consumer sovereignty. Existence of consumer sovereignty. By consumer sovereignty, we mean that the consumer is the king. Consumer is the king. Consumer is king, as the slogan usually goes in the market. Consumer is king. Why? You are producing for the consumer. And that's why we are able to have what we call consumer goods. They are ready for the consumer's use. So whatever production is being undertaken, we are producing for them giving a purpose to the consumer, to give him utility, and maybe in the final analysis end up satisfying some of his needs and wants, which are rather many. So existence of consumer sovereignty means that in this economic system, which is the free enterprise economy, people are free to buy whatever they want. How do you know that they want your commodity? Whenever they are ready to pay a higher price, or wherever they are, as we are going to see the price mechanism, they seem as if they are casting a vote for you. They are voting for you to remain in production by continuing to buy your product, and they are ready to offer the price which have attracted your commodity. So the consumer is the one who guides the allocation of the resources towards the production of the commodity that he desires. So you can't say that you are going to force commodities onto people. No, here they have their freedom, and that's why it is a free enterprise economy. People are free to choose and take on a commodity and leave out another. And whenever they don't buy your commodity, that is an indicator that your commodity is not desired by them. When they want your commodity, they are going to be paying, and you find that on the market it is not there, and you as a producer, you are encouraged to produce more so that you can meet their needs or their requirements. So consumer sovereignty is another issue or another feature that we usually find in a free enterprise economy, where the consumer is the king. You produce only what he wants, and you can't impose your goods on him. Then price in the free enterprise economy is determined by the forces of demand and supply. It is not the government which fixes the price, not the consumer, but forces of demand and supply. Forces of demand and supply determine the price in this economic system. Determine the price. Forces of demand and supply determine the price. How? Whenever demand is high, definitely people are in, they like your commodity and they want to buy it and take it. For that matter, prices are going to increase. So you find that demand determines the price. So if the demand is there and it is increasing, the producer who is aiming at profit maximization will definitely increase the price. Not that you determine the price prior to production. No, the price is going to be determined in the market by looking at the way in which your commodity is demanded. If the demand, that is the ability, the desire backed by ability to pay by the consumers is high, then you are going to determine, or a higher price is going to be fixed for that commodity. And that tells you that go ahead and supply more. Increase the supply of that commodity because it is desired. So that's where supply and demand comes in. Once the demand is high, prices are going to increase, and for that matter, they are going to make the producer to increase the supply. Then when prices are low, you can also look at the prices sometimes may be low. Why is that so? Because the supply is high. We have seen that in this economy, producers are many, the high rate of competition, and everybody is free to produce whatever commodity he or she likes. So at one time, we may have a commodity of one category being in plentiful supply, and you find that everybody is selling that commodity. Everybody is selling that commodity at that time. All of them, so that it was profitable, and all of them have invested their money towards the production of that commodity, leading to an oversupply or putting to the market more than what is required. So here now supply is the one which is greater than demand, and whenever supply is greater than demand, prices usually go down. And this is going to make the consumer to enjoy the goods at low prices, but our producer is going to be losing, because at lower prices, the profit level also decreases. And this is because the demand has gone down. It may make the producer in the next season to reduce on the supply. Or some people even go out of that line of production, and you find that the next season few people have supplied that commodity, which again is going to increase the price because supply will have reduced, and you find that demand goes up again. But it's not the government that is directing demand and supply. No, it is just the forces which we cannot see, which are there in the market situation. And by market we don't mean a place. No, it is just a situation where exchange of goods and services is taking place, either using money or any other kind of mediums or activities. So we find that in the market, forces of demand and supply are going to be interacting. And whenever one side is greater than the other, we tend to have a disequilibrium, and maybe the prices increase or decrease accordingly. So in a free enterprise economy, we find that forces of demand and supply determine the price. Whenever demand is greater than supply, it means that the prices are going to increase. And when demand is the one which is less than supply, then the prices are going to fall. So demand is now less than supply, meaning that supply is greater than demand, prices fall. So it is the forces of demand and supply which influence the price. Whenever one is greater than the other, it leads to a change in the price, and as we have seen there, demand being more in the market, but the supply is limited, which means that there is a relative shortage that pushes up the prices. But when it is the reverse, supply is the one which is now greater, and you find that the demand is a bit low, then prices are going to come down. That is where we look at the forces of demand and supply interacting to determine our prices for goods in that economy. So let's look at the merits of this kind of economic system. What advantages are there? After seeing these characteristics, you are going to find out that at least most of the merits are also derived from the characteristics. So we can call them merits or advantages. What advantages are there for somebody to operate in an economic system which is of a free enterprise economy? We find that it is a cheap system since adjustments are automatic. They are influenced by demand and supply. So we don't need government to come in and control the prices, regulate them to a higher level, regulate them to a lower level. No, it is the forces of demand and supply. So there will be no need for government to employ people to enforce the price regulations or price controls. Then it encourages production of high quality goods. Why? Because of the many producers who have their freedom to embark on production, and for that matter, they introduce competition, whereby competition brings about high quality products. If your product is of a low quality, consumers have their freedom of choosing what to buy, so those of low quality will be left out, and you as a producer, you'll be outcompeted by the better quality products. Then we find that it leads to a wide variety of goods and services. How does this arise? It has been pointed out in the features or in the characteristics that there are many producers who have a freedom of choosing which goods and services to produce. Not everybody will choose to produce the same product, and for that matter, whatever you choose may be different from the other. And for the consumer's point of view, he can see that there is a variety from which he can make choices to satisfy his or her various human needs. It encourages consumer sovereignty as the wishes of the consumer are honored. So in the free enterprise economy, we have already pointed out that the consumer is the king, and for that matter, it is an encouragement to the consumer to be the boss and to be the one guiding the allocation of resources by the producer, so that he or she produces for him goods and services that he desires, but not that he does not desire. So let's just enumerate them here. Cheap, it is a cheap system with no costs. Then find that encourages consumer sovereignty, avails variety of goods and services, and this is a benefit to the consumer. Avails a variety of goods and services to the consumers. Products are of high quality. Products are of a high quality because of competition. The producers are many, and if yours are of a low quality, definitely you are going to be out competed, and there is limited resource wastage. There is limited resource wastage, or it may be there where you oversupply, anticipating that the profits are going to be very high, but we find that because of demand and supply, you supply according to demand, and if the demand is not there, you don't waste the resources. So there is limited resource wastage because of the operation of demand and supply. You supply according to demand.